leadership and a lack of accountability are the culprits behind yet another year of dismal financial outcomes in local municipalities across the country. The latest municipal audit results confirm a long-run trend in the decline of local government in the country. The evidence is clear for all to see in the state of pavements and roads and water running down the streets and signs in disrepair, which all paint a grim picture of local government's deteriorating financial management. Now, releasing the report titled Not Much to Go Around, Yet Not the Right Hands at the Till, Auditor General Kimi Makwetu said it painted an undesirable picture of billions of rands in funds allocated to local government being managed in ways that are contrary to the prescripts and recognised accounting disciplines in the country. Only 8% of municipalities received a clean audit, and on average they took 180 days to pay creditors. Irregular expenditure exceeded 32 billion rand, up from 24 billion in the previous year. And on a national level, we may applaud the state's war against this pandemic at the moment, but it's at municipal level that the battle will be fought. And it's at this level that we've seen cases of opportunistic advantage taking, shall we call it. But what we also see is a different picture at the country's metros. The country's 8 metros really are at the coalface of service delivery, and it's there that we at least see signs of stability and some signs of success as well. That said, COVID-19 is undoubtedly going to impact at a metro level the metro's ability to collect revenues as well, and really raises a big question as to what is the impact that COVID-19 is going to have at the country's 8 metros. With that, we'd like to welcome your panelists today. First, in our Zoom room, we've got Danga Mughogho, who is a Program Manager for Well-Governed Cities at the SA Cities Network, Ian Nielsen, Executive Deputy Mayor and MMC of Finance in the City of Cape Town, and at the last census had a population of around 3.7 million. We've also got Nkosi Xhakaza, Ekurhuleni MMC for Finance and Economic Development. The latest census has that population at around 3.5 million. And Krish Kumar, CFO of eThekwini Municipality, just under 3.5 million people. So together, these 3 metros service almost a quarter of the country's population. Danga, kick us off here. Broadly, the headline-grabbing number from the AG's report is that of the 257 municipalities around the country, 20 received a clean audit. It's a narrow increase from the 18 clean audits that we had in the prior year. What really characterises the outcomes of the audit or financial statements of the majority of local government across the country?
Well, I think, and to just jump off from your earlier comments, the South African Cities Network focuses on the metros. And in this discussion, I think we will be focusing on the metros. And I think it's fair to say that the outcomes that have been found in the Auditor General's report will be quite considerably different when you look at the metros as compared to some of the other municipalities, which of course are facing the challenges that he identified. As you said yourself, the metros are in the main a very different bunch. And in fact, their financial performance is steady and is solid, and it's quite different, I think, to some of the more perhaps disturbing findings that you see in the Auditor General's report.
It is almost as if former President Thabo Mbeki's 2 economies exist in South Africa, with the 8 metros delivering a quite different performance to what we see in local government around the country. And each province has a unique story. The picture in Gauteng held steady. We saw all municipalities maintaining good audit outcomes. And in particular, MMC Xhakaza, the Auditor General commended the city of Ekurhuleni, who joined Midvaal and Marafong and Mogale City for being proactive in upskilling the finance function. Just take me through how you've approached cleaning up the city's financial accounting, and what is it that you still require to ensure that you receive a clean audit next time round?
Yeah, well, I mean, we have received the Auditor General's the results, and of course we've been interfacing with these results since November 2019, and of course they were tabled to council early in January, and of course we had to do some a lot of processing of through the institutions of councils, including MPEC, and now they are then announced by the AG, and we're happy with the city, with the performance and the improvement, thus far. And it takes a lot of work. I think planning in the main, that's where everything starts. I mean, if you've got proper plans in place, if you've got and those plans, they must be bankable, they must be realistic, they must be supported by clear business plans. You must have the right capacity, in terms of human capital to be able to take them through. And only then really you can deliver and meet the expectations of the AG in the three areas that I look at. I mean, how you prepare your financials. I mean, it's important that the quality of those financials are up to scratch. There's no material misstatement, because it's important that we give our communities, including other stakeholders who are interested in our results, that indeed these are the properly prepared results. But two is the issue of the predetermined objectives, what we know as the plans, the KPIs that we've announced that we're going to deliver on, and that which we actually do and report is correct. We refer to that as performance information. And the last area is compliance with laws and legislation. And this is an area that has got to do with how do you procure largely, procurement system. If you don't have proper plans on time, you will then venture into deviations. You will then be found, because of pressures of service delivery, doing some other things that you should not be doing, and that compromises your work. We're happy with how we've performed in that area. We've achieved a zero unauthorized expenditure, which is there. If you have something is pure theft, it means this expenditure is nowhere, not on the plans, and somebody just embark on it. We've achieved a zero there. Of course, we've reduced. I mean, even the wasteful and fruit expenditure, we've reduced them quite, considerable. And then the fruitless expenditure, we've been able to. I mean, the irregular, we've been able to take it from 215 million to about 5 million. So we think if municipalities can pay attention, to these areas, and of course you need to be supported by credible and qualified, competent officials to be able to drive this work, because we are politicians. Ours is to ensure that we give the necessary oversight of administration, but we have to ensure that we've got the right people to actually do that job. Yeah.
I think on that point, MMC, I'd like to move over to MMC Nielsen. And looking at the City of Cape Town Metro, MMC Nielsen maintained a clean audit outcome for 4 consecutive years before regressing in 2016-17 to financially unqualified with findings on compliance with legislation. And the Auditor General said this regression was mainly due to political instability and a breakdown in preventative controls, which have been highlighted over a number of years. There was an action plan, an audit action plan that was devised, but implementation of this plan didn't have the desired impact during 18-19 fiscal. What's hampering your turnaround plan here, specifically on procurement issues that the Auditor General has highlighted?
Well, I think largely, you see, we've had 16 years of unqualified audit. So the issue is not with our financial statements or with anything like that. It has been around the issue of compliance with regulations. That's the area that we've fallen down on, and that's been the irregular expenditure that the AG has found. So we have a audit action plan in place, very active one, to address all those issues, to ensure that through the organization there's full understanding of those issues. I can take just an example. The one where we fell down on a couple of contracts was local content. They were actually quite small in that case, but it's a question that it's about the proper wording of the specifications and so on, and get those things right. So that's an action plan to get that right. I think the other key area is our capital spend. That has declined a little bit. We achieved 80%, but 80% is not good enough. For ourselves, we want capital spend to exceed 90%, preferably 95% of the budget. So we have a program, project program in place that has taken a few years to start implementing and getting results. In fact, this financial year that's just ended, we were heading for a record spend until COVID shut down our construction sites. But I still think when the final numbers come through in the next few weeks, we will see a very good spend on capital.
And housing in particular.
It's an ongoing effort to address all these things. You can never let up on anything.
Absolutely. And just to interject, the Auditor General did point to the underspending on the housing budget. We'll come back to that. Krish, little change in the audit outcomes of the KZN province. eThekwini Metro incurred 2.3 billion rand of irregular expenditure, which makes up a bulk of the increase in irregular expenditure in the province. And the AG said he couldn't confirm that proper supply chain management processes were followed for establishing a panel of service providers that was appointed to construct washing facilities. It's a pretty damning finding. What's being done about that?
Anthony, thank you very much. And I must just say I feel very uncomfortable with two very learned politicians and me being a practitioner. But I think that it will bring some balance to the process, because I can identify with what the two, the MMC for Finance and the Deputy Mayor of Cape Town have indicated. I think from eThekwini's perspective, we've also had the proud record. I think I stand to be corrected, but we're the only municipality that's actually had unqualified audit reports since inception. I think with regard to irregular expenditure and what's been found from the AG, I think the devil is in the detail. And like Cape Town have indicated, I think it's a matter of compliance. And I think the real issue for us is around whether these were minor breaches or major breaches. Notwithstanding that, it was a matter of compliance, and we do agree that we did not comply with the full intent of the supply chain regulations, and we therefore are not fighting the AG on the finding. But I think what's important, Anthony, is that every year when the AG releases their report, there's a big hype in the media, and rightly so, because accountability has got to be there in terms of public funds. But the issue for me now, with the Public Audit Amendment Act and recoverability powers of the Auditor General, I would really hope that we would better reflect on the way irregular expenditure is disclosed. So, for example, if I'd used an expired contract and I had full value for money received, I've actually achieved goods and services were delivered, value for money was received, I still come through and get a rap over the knuckles in terms of the fact that that was deemed to be non-compliant, which I'm not fighting. But it's the way that's reported becomes critical, because all irregular expenditure is certainly not fruitless and wasteful, as my colleagues have indicated. I think we need to make that very clear to the public that irregular expenditure indicates non-compliance, like the Deputy Mayor of Cape Town is indicating. And for me, what's very important is how much of this is really fruitless and wasteful, how much of it is subject to recoverability, and therefore the Public Amendment Audit Act that the Auditor General now has powers on would actually on that. So we are working through our irregular expenditure. We have got a lot of that being dealt with by our impact, and as we condone or recover, we will report on that. And I think I'd be very happy for our politicians to respond to that in due course, and even through the Auditor General when we respond at the end of this reporting period in terms of how we've responded to the particular expenditure in question. But we have put as well a audit response plan with regard to the issues, and I must indicate that it is at a very mature state of implementation, and we will hope not to have any repeat findings, and we will certainly hope to continue in the tradition of unqualified audits as we've always had. And we'll certainly hold those that were responsible for the irregular expenditure accountable, and ensure that where there's recoverability due, that recoverability is sought, and the AG then would obviously invoke its powers in terms of the Public Audit Amendment Act in terms of ensuring recoverability.
Thank you very much, Chris. We just have to take a quick break, and when we return, Danga, perhaps you can just respond to some of the issues already raised, much of it around traversing a very highly regulated realm of municipal finances. You're watching COVID-19 Business Watch here on BusinessDay TV.